Morning, colleagues. Selena Delport, she's the postgraduate workshop coordinator at Stellenbosch University Writing Lab. She tutored at various departments at the university, and these included the English Literature Department, the Unit for Document Design, and SciMaths, which is a bridging course for postmatric students. In 2006, she joined the Writing Lab team as a consultant, and since 2009, she's been presenting writing skills workshops for postgraduate students writing their theses and dissertations. And other workshops that Selena has developed for postgraduate students include plagiarism and writing research proposals and academic articles. And her research interests include African women's writing and postgraduate students' writing experiences. Thank you, Selena, and yeah, we're looking forward to your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kirchnera and Santi. And thank you very much for the opportunity to be part of the Library Research Week again. I'll briefly switch on my camera so that you know, so that you at least have a face with a little circle that goes with it. So my, I'm not sure. Okay, sorry, there's stuff happening on the screen that I haven't seen before. Every week, every Monday when we come back, Teams has changed where stuff are and what happens. So thank you very much for having me today. I'm going to talk about the do's and don'ts of writing a proposal. So I'm just going to just switch off my camera, and I'm going to share my screen. Okay. Excellent. Can you all see my screen?
Yes, I can from my side.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Let me quickly. Okay. So, thank you, Nicole. So what I usually do before we start, I just want to explain how I usually do it, is I put the slides to the side, because I like it if the workshops are interactive, and this way I can see the chat. And if you don't want to use the chat, if you want to add something verbally, you can just raise your hand here, and then I can see if a hand gets up there, and then I'll give you a chance to add anything. At any point, please feel free to add questions, comments, doesn't matter. I don't mind being interrupted. So you can either raise your hand or just chat in the chat box. Now, I do know that this is sometimes for some people, it's a little bit too busy visually. There's too much going on. So if this is too much, if you only want to see the slides, then I'll make the slide big, and I'll rely on Kirchner and Santi to tell me if there's hands up or if there's a comment in the chat box. So just if this is too much visual information, just let me know, and then I'll make the slides big. Are you all okay with this? Okay, so I'll continue with the slides like this. If at any point, excellent, thank you. Okay, so somewhat, yes, Tukologo, we can definitely do the slides only. So I'm going to, Kirchner, I'm going to rely on you to let me know if there's a comment or if there's a hand up.
100% I'll do so.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, so I'm going to make this big. Now, the research proposal is basically a planning document for your thesis, but it's important to do planning for the proposal itself as well, because it helps to make it, to structure information, to look for information, to connect things together if you do some planning beforehand. So although this is about the do's and don'ts of the of writing a research proposal, the focus will be a little bit more on the do's, things that you can do to help you write your proposal. I'd like to start with a quote by Knight. He said, well, first of all, a thesis proposal is not that different from a marriage proposal. You make sincere promises. You sweat profusely. You hope the other party says yes. You get down on your knees and beg. Doing a marriage proposal is, in fact, good practice for a thesis proposal. Now, it's a bit tongue in the cheek, but Knight does touch on a few elements of writing a proposal. You make sincere promises. Your proposal is a promise that you're going to do X, Y, and Z. And it can be a difficult text to write, so there'll be some sweating. And it's also, and this is important, it's also a persuasive text. You're trying to get the university, the department, a supervisor to say yes. And you hope that they say yes. So it's not just informative of what you're going to do, it's also a persuasive document. What makes the proposal a challenge that makes us sweat so profusely is that it's a form of pre-writing. It's not your actual research yet. It's a planning document for the research, but at the same time, it's a finished product that you have to submit to 2 or more committees. So it doesn't have to be perfect. It only has to be good enough. Oh dear, was there, okay, maybe it was just someone's mic. So it's this odd piece. It's a bit of pre-writing, but at the same time, it needs to be good enough to be sent to committees and get permission to do your research. And a proposal, if you think about a process line, not a timeline, a process line, and the process starts where you decide, I'm going to do my master's, my doctorate, and the finish of the process line is where you get your degree. About 55 to 60% into that process is where you submit your proposal. So you're basically doing 60% of the work in 30% of the time, and then the other 70% of the time you do 40% of the work. The proposal is very important, and the initial planning is very important. It makes it easier to do the research, to write the thesis, etc. And the benefits of writing a proposal is to help you see whether your research is worthwhile. Does it have scientific merit to it? Is this something that would be of interest to the research community? It also helps you to see if it's feasible, because you only have a certain amount of time to do the master's or the doctorate, so you want to make sure that it's doable in that time. Do you have access to all the necessary resources? Do you have a sufficient amount of time to maybe travel to different places and have interviews, which now, of course, is a bit not... Now we more use online ways of doing our research. But is it doable? Do you have the necessary equipment, time, so to see that you'll be able to do it, and because it's a persuasive text, to convince your supervisor in the department and the university that the research is worthwhile, it's feasible, and that you thought of all the different possibilities and ways of conducting it, having contingency plans if things change, etc. Now, there's 3 main questions a proposal answers. It focuses on what is the problem that you want to investigate, and that problem is framed within what Meton calls the research world. So it's not, your research can't fix a real world problem. It can provide solutions for the real world problem, but it can't actually fix it. So your problem will be framed as, what can I research? You can't fix the high crime rate, but you can do research about what contributes to the crime rate. And that could be used when people make policies and laws, etc. But it's also important, because your proposal is a persuasive text, that you answer why this problem has to be investigated. What makes it important? And then how? How are you going to investigate that problem? What methods will you use? What measuring instruments? How will you approach that problem? And what we're going to do, we're going to look at those 3 questions and different ways in which you can get started with formulating responses to those questions and fleshing out the rest of your proposal. And we're going to use a technique called nutshell writing. It's when you use short pieces of text as a starting point and you flesh it out, and you use those small pieces of text to help you write different parts of your proposal. So we're going to start with an exercise. I'm going to ask you to write one sentence answering 3 questions. So it might be a slightly long sentence. Don't worry too much about the syntax or the sentence structure. It's probably going to be a longish sentence, but the reason I want you to answer those 3 questions in one sentence is to force you to be very focused. Not a lot of description, not a lot of explanation, just the core of answering those 3 questions. And I'll give you sentence prompts that you can use when writing that sentence. So the first question I want you to answer is, what are you researching? So you can write, I am researching mythological creatures. Why is this topic important or relevant? So I'm researching mythological creatures in order to learn how they hide themselves, or I'm researching mythological creatures in order to learn why it's so difficult to find them. And what is your aim? I'm researching mythological creatures in order to learn how they hide from humans, so that we can develop equipment to better detect mythological creatures, for argument's sake. And I used a silly example. Preferably, I'd like you to do it with your research, but if you're tired of your topic, or you feel your topic is maybe a bit still too fuzzy, you can do it with something fun as well. So I'm going to give you a few minutes to write that single sentence. And if you want, can you write that sentence in the chat box if you'd like us to look at that sentence? We won't be able to look at all of them, but if those of you who would like a chance for us to look at that sentence, please type it in the chat box. So I'm going to keep quiet now and let you write your sentence. I'm just going to make my slides smaller again so that I can see if there's any. Excellent. Wonderful. Okay. Just quickly going to, I'll keep it up for a minute more. Okay. So let's take the very first one. Tekologo, excellent. I'm just going to write your name here, and I'm going to copy your sentence, paste. Okay, so Tekologo said, I'm researching African spirituality in order to see how it influences decision-making of cultural leaders by interviewing cultural leaders and spiritual practitioners. Very nice. Any concerns or questions that you have, Tekologo, about your sentence? Yes, yes, it had to be one sentence. Perfect. Absolutely. It is one sentence. Perfect. Any feedback for Tekologo from Tokologo, sorry. Am I pronouncing your name correctly?
Sorry, I couldn't find my my mic. Yes, you are pronouncing it correctly, but it's T-O in the spelling.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So Tokologo.
Yeah, that's
excellent.
right.
Excellent. Great. Thank you, Tokologo. Sorry. Let's just fix that. There we go. Anything you'd like to, anything you're unsure about in the sentence?
No, this is fine. But the one thing I do want to ask though, that you said the three main questions is what is the problem, why should we investigate it, how it will be investigated, and then in the example you said what is the aim? So does the aim fall in with one of those three?
It does. So these two questions focus on the first two questions here. So what are you researching? Why is it important? But also the aim is also part of the why. It's what you hope to achieve after you finish the research. So these two questions are slightly different. This question focuses on your motivation for doing the research, whereas this one focuses on what you hope to achieve once you've completed your research. Does that make sense?
Yes, that makes sense. Thank you.
Excellent. Now we're going to get to the how just now. Any feedback for Tokologo? What do the rest of you think of her sentence? Just checking if there's a hand up. Oh, I think I see a hand up. Yes. Mr. Mukamba, Juma, hi, welcome. What would you like to add, Juma? Just remember to unmute yourself.
Okay, sorry, I didn't see the. Yeah, no. Actually, the thing I want to add here is that this is a good the proposal. I have a problem to follow why this is important.
Okay.
I mean, the part of the aim, as you mentioned, that in the last question.
Yes. Yeah, the so that is missing. Okay.
Yes. Otherwise, it's a good in the part because it's important. This is spiritual issues and leaders is important. People killing each other because of these spiritual issues. Yes.
Yes. Yes. So, Tokologo, what would be your aim after you've had your interviews? You've analyzed the interviews. You found out how it influences their decision making. What was your main objective, your main aim?
I actually just made it up on the spot.
Oh, very nice. It's a topic you might have research now on it.
Yeah, because I think it is a fascinating topic, but I've never actually like thought in depth about it as to why. I was just following the Mujaji story about them sort of usurping the rain queen to have a rain king, and then I wonder why they did that.
Yes.
So yeah, it prompted my idea now, but I haven't actually thought about what the aim would be. So yeah.
But but this is interesting. So then you can always, if you decide to do something with this, you can definitely, when you think about it more and read it more, you can then later add the aim. But yes, it looks good, the beginning bit.
All right, thank you.
Excellent, thank you, Tokologo. Just keeping an eye on the time. So Tokologo will one day add the aim and then do this research. Let's quickly see. I want to look at one more. Let's quickly see. Okay, so this is more. Teboho is wrote it, copy in 3 sentences, but that's okay. Oh, yes. It's very difficult to not have typos. Oops. Services. There we go. I don't know why they do that. Okay, Teboho. Teboho's sentence reads, I'm writing about why men have a low health HIV-seeking behavior. That topic is important because if we leave anyone behind, the infection will still occur and we will not reach 0 by 2030. The aim is to devise a means to ensure that men come for health HIV services. Very nice. Teboho, do you have any questions or something that you're wondering about in your sentence?
Please come again.
Do you have any concerns or do you have any questions that you're wondering about with the sentence that you wrote that you weren't sure about? Or do you just want general feedback?
No, I'm not sure I understand your question, but I need general feedback because this is the topic which I will be writing for my master's.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thanks, Teboho. Am I pronouncing your name correctly?
People have a tendency to pronounce it in the way where the H is substituted with sort of a G with the H, but this one is a Sotho one. It's Teboho.
Teboho. Okay.
Yes,
so
that is perfect. That is perfect. Thank you.
Excellent, Teboho. Thank you. Okay, so feedback for Teboho. How any feedback for him on his sentence, even if it is, yeah, it can be questions or it can be I really like this. I see there's another hand, or maybe it's an old hand. Juma, is that an old hand or a new hand?
Yeah, it is the hand because if I like the idea of seeking health-seeking behaviors. I wish the Teboho, I like that name, would remove the full stop as you instruct. Yeah.
Okay. We could always, we could make one sentence.
And be one sentence, and then the aim. Okay, it's okay to come to the HIV services. I wish it could be the aim is to reduce the maybe infection rates, new infection, because I don't think that the aim is to see people still coming to the services. Maybe to come, maybe to reduce the infection rate. That's I would suggest. Maybe the vocal will come again and there.
Okay.
And
what do you think?
The aim is to reduce new cases or new infection or to of HIV.
Okay.
I don't know how to put it. And, that's my suggestion, to reduce or to wipe the HIV/AIDS or combat. Although this is a good idea, because if you want to reduce the people come to the service or reduce HIV, they're a good idea. Thank
you. Excellent. Teboho, what do you think about Juma's suggestion that the aim should rather be to reduce new cases?
I totally agree with him. I think I put it too close to the question, but this is the general aim eventually. It is not just about men coming to services, it's about reducing the number of new cases. So I totally agree with him.
Okay. What I am wondering is, remember when I spoke about the real world and the research world, would it be possible, would your research be able to reduce new cases, or would your research only be able to devise a means to ensure that men come from health or HIV services?
Yeah, the reason I didn't put it general like my colleague is because I didn't want to expand too much. I needed something which I would be able to measure, because then I would be able to see that if the new if we have ensured that men come to services, I will be able to measure that at least. But as to whether it eventually reduces the number of cases, then it may be a bit too long term for my research to cover.
Yes. So this would I agree with you. For the research, this is a step towards reducing new cases, and this is completely doable within the master's thesis. And then obviously you'll do your doctorate and you'll become an academic, and you're going to do more research that helps reduce the new cases and infections, right?
Yes, this will be a bit more longitudinal study, which would be for a PhD, I think.
Wonderful. Excellent. Thank you so much for sharing. I see some comments that the how is not addressed. We're not looking at the how yet. We're just looking at the what and why for now. We're going to get to the how just now. So you can use this nutshell where you answer these three questions in one sentence at any point of your research. So you can do it in the beginning, when you are, I'm just going to make it a bit bigger again. So you can do it in the beginning when you are still formulating your ideas, because oftentimes when we start with a project, the parameters aren't that clear yet. It's a little bit fuzzy and fluffy. So doing this helps you to narrow down the focus of what you'd like to do and why you want to do it. Or you can do it while you're busy with your research, while you're writing your proposal. So sometimes when you're busy constructing the proposal and you're thinking about your research and you're reading a lot, the topic becomes very big, maybe too big for a master's or a doctorate, and that's perfectly normal. We often start off with a topic that's quite massive, and then the proposal helps us to narrow down that topic. So while you're busy reading, you're busy writing your proposal, you can come back to this exercise just to make sure that this is my main focus, and draw everything back in and go through what you've written and see, is it still focusing on that topic? Is this motivation coming out clearly and strongly enough? Has my aims maybe shifted? Is this still my primary aim, or is it something else? Is it something achievable as well? So I want to talk about a second tiny text. People don't often think of this as a tiny text, but your title itself is a tiny text. And a title, what did I want to say? A title helps set your reader's expectations in terms of what is coming. But when we write, I think academia has it a little bit backwards. When we write a proposal, they want a title almost from the beginning. And that can be, oh, I think someone's. Just remember to mute yourself. And we're going to chat again just now. Now, as I said, I think academia has it backwards. They want you to have a title from the beginning. But I'm pretty sure Tolkien didn't start writing The Lord of the Rings and he started out by thinking, I'm writing a book about some short people going on a trip. I need a title for that. Wrote the title and then wrote the book. He probably came up with a title as he was writing the book. But in academia, it works a bit differently. And the benefit of having a title from the beginning is that it helps to guide your inquiry. So it helps you to look for information, narrow down what types of topics you need to look for in the literature, what you need to focus on, what your keywords are. But it can be challenging. So we're not forgetting about these sentences. I'm going to come back to the sentence to show how you can, yes.
I see there's a hand raised.
Oh, yes. Thank you very much, Kirchner.
It's Dominique.
Dominique. Oh, okay. Dominique. Excellent.
Sorry about the long surname.
No worries. I wasn't sure which is which. Dominique.
Sorry, it was just, my question was about, it was just one step back. It was about prior to the title. And it's really about the idea of the problem statement.
Okay.
So in the in my first attempt at doing a research proposal, the problem statement was I was trying to describe the problem about the real world problem, and the feedback I got was actually what I should have been describing was the problem in the literature. So would you mind at some point just elaborating a little bit about that? Are we trying to talk about what the problem is? So my thing was about affordable housing.
Okay.
So there's an affordable housing problem, blah, blah, blah. Or is the problem statement trying to describe that there is lack of research or lack of insight into a particular element of affordable housing? Like, because that for me is like, I don't really understand that thing well enough yet.
Distinction. You're correct. So in your introduction of your proposal, you can provide real world background about affordable housing and what the problems are in making sure people get affordable housing. And then I should have maybe added that slide. Usually you'll get from your departments, you'll get a template for your proposal, and it has basically the same elements, but it might be ordered slightly differently. In most cases, the proposal starts with background information, and that background is the real world background. We have a problem with housing. Housing isn't affordable. You explain why it isn't, what the issues are in the real world. And then usually after that, you'll have a preliminary literature review where you then look at what research has been done on affordable housing. And then the problem could be, and you frame that within the research world, your problem isn't that there isn't affordable housing. That's not what your problem is. There's a lack of research maybe about affordable housing, or there's a lack, maybe there's policies, but there's a lack of the policy implementation, and you want to find out what is the best practice. There's no guidelines for best practice about how to implement policies for affordable housing. Does that make sense? That distinction?
Yeah, that's very helpful. Thanks.
Excellent.
Yeah, the template. Sorry, just maybe a follow-up question. The template that we got.
Yes.
It seemed like it was the same template as the actual that we'd use for the research assignment. So is that the case? Like, or is it a different template that we should be using?
I'm not sure. Which department are you in?
development finance, so it's economics and.
Okay. So, so you got a template for the proposal.
Well, we got one template.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's not clear if it's just like if we use that and then we build on it, or whether there's a separate template for the research proposal, which has that sort of those headings that you were describing, and then a different one for the actual thesis.
Yeah. Oh no, nothing wants to open on my side. Sorry. I wanted. Oh, there. Oh goodness. Okay. It just opened suddenly all at once. I'm quickly going to show you if maybe this looks familiar. Okay, so this is just from the full research. There we go. Did it look something like this? That there's a title and introduction of the. Okay, this would be for basically just the. I'm going to copy this. Basically, just the proposal. Okay. I'm going to put the structure in there. There we go. It will have a working title. It will have an introduction where you give the background, the context, you provide motivation, a preliminary literature review, a problem statement that could either be phrased as, not a problem statement, a research problem that can either be phrased as a problem statement or as research questions or both. Then your aim and objectives, if necessary, that's why I put it in brackets, propositions or hypotheses, your design methodology, if a time frame, if necessary, budget, how a chapter or article outline, depending on how you're going to present your research, and then references. Now, the in development finance, do you have a choice about whether you're going to write a full thesis or whether you're going to write articles and submit that for the degree?
No, it's a full thesis. We don't have a choice.
Okay, excellent. Okay, well, not excellent.
Yeah,
but I'm
happy with that, though. Yeah.
Yeah, I prefer the article one, but this one is so you will then also in your proposal you'll mention what you're going to put in each chapter. Excellent. Yes. Wonderful. Ms. Duncan said templates can also be dependent on what your supervisor wants. Absolutely. That's why I said this is, let's put their possible template. It can differ from one department to the next. It can differ from one supervisor to the next. So always make sure, get one and it's a template. Doesn't matter where you get it from. You don't have to slavishly follow this. Some people like to start with a research problem. So they won't really have, it's not called introduction then, it's then called background to that. So they start with a research problem and then flesh it out. Where does this research problem come from? Specifically in terms of the real world background, what does the research say about this problem? Then objectives. So you can move things around a little bit. It's not set in stone, but always, it's built on this template. And then what I have here in the last slides is once you've now finished your proposal, it becomes a blueprint for you to do your research. But even then, it's not, I just want to jump back to this, it's not set in stone. So it could be that you said you're going to do 10 interviews, only 8 people are available, or by some magic, you get 12 people to take part. And that's okay. It doesn't have to go through ethics clearance again. It only goes through ethics again if you completely change the design methodology. But it could be your title is going to be a working title until the time that you submit. The only thing that you can't change, if you have a hypothesis, that can't change. But the rest can be adapted. Because as you do your research, you have this plan so that your reader can see, okay, think of it as a roadmap. You're telling your readers you're going to travel from Stellenbosch to Cape Town, and you give them the details of exactly how you're going to go there. But once you're on the N1, there was a road accident, so now you have to take a detour. But you've studied the roads well enough to know what detour to take. And that's why the proposal planning is so important, is that in the proposal you show, I'm aware that this is the route I'm going to take. This is what I'll do if things don't work out. And then the different parts of your proposal becomes different parts of the thesis chapters. Oh, there's another hand. I'm going to get to that hand just now. So, for example, your proposal, you don't throw it away. This becomes, you rework it and becomes your introductory chapter. So in the introductory chapter, you'll provide background and context, the motivation. You might flesh it out a bit. You'll state in your introductory chapter what your research problem is, what your objectives are, your hypothesis. You'll briefly touch on what approach you have, your design and methodology. But then you don't have the time frame and the budget anymore, but you will have a brief overview of what's to follow, so that your reader's prepared for the rest of the thesis. And this bit comes out and becomes a fully fledged chapter on its own, your literature review chapter. And then you can have, say, one design and methodology chapter, as many findings chapters as necessary, and a concluding chapter. So the structure of the thesis is going to be a bit different, but still connected to the structure of the proposal. Does that make sense, Dominique?
Thank you. That's really helpful.
Excellent. Excellent. And then I see there's another hand. Thank you, Kirchner. Linda, yes.
Hi, yes.
Hi, Linda.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
While we are on this topic and these three questions that you raised in terms of structuring and, a research journey, there is something that completely paralyzes me, is this thing called in the academic world, the golden thread.
Ah, yes.
And as I see these questions, I'm assuming that there should be a golden thread that is actually linking these questions as you are doing your research. Would you like to share some more light on that?
It will be difficult to cover that in this session as well. Yeah. I can maybe just, I'll add a slide for that. Okay. Let's add a slide here. New slide, the golden thread. So things that you can do to create a golden thread is to repeat keywords. That helps with the focus, but not just random words, your keywords. You want to repeat those. To you, it's going to feel as if you're repeating too much, because you carry the memory of all your drafts with you, and you're trying to, and you're immersed in your topic. So for you, it's going to feel like a lot of repetition, but your reader needs that because they're doing multiple other things while they're reading your text. So they read it, they go and answer some emails, they read a little bit more, they go and teach, they read it, they go and do their own research. So they're constantly being interrupted while they're reading. So repeating those keywords helps them to keep focus. You can also use transitional words and phrases. I'm going to make a document available that has a list of those transitional words and phrases. Things like therefore, in addition, however, because, to show the connection between ideas. And you can use them anywhere. You can use them between sentences. You can use them between paragraphs. Sometimes we even have transitional sentences or paragraphs if you want to connect large chunks of, or if you want to connect paragraphs with each other or large chunks of information. And another thing that you can do for the golden thread is, this might sign, it helps with focus as well. So the difference between signposting and transitional words. Signposting is, for example, when you signal to your reader that you are concluding, or that you are, that this is your aim, or you are signaling to your reader that this is the focus. you actually use the word in conclusion to show your reader, okay, I'm finishing now. Or the aim of this research is to, or the focus of this research is on that. So that also helps with creating that golden thread. These are just a few tips. So it's not, we have whole workshops where we focus on just that golden thread and creating it. Also, if your headings and subheadings are logical and systematic, that also helps. And systematic. If they make logical sense, the order in which you've put them, then that helps with the golden thread. Does that help, Linda?
A great deal, thank you.
Oh, excellent, excellent. Okay, I just want to highlight Ms. Buerta's comment here. She says in some divisions it is common to merge certain components. Absolutely. Where is it now? There we go. For example, and these will all be linked to each other. So say for argument's sake, you have 3 research questions. It might be that you then have 3 objectives. Once you've answered this research, the first research question, what would you have achieved? So it's also linked to the hypotheses if you have any. And the objectives are then linked to the specific methods. In order to achieve these objectives, you think about, okay, what do I have to do to achieve this? So they're conceptually linked with each other, and in some departments, you're absolutely right. They merge the components, they put them into one section. Absolutely. So always check your department's template, but you can adapt it for your own topic. So we're going to come back to the sentences. I just want to see if there's another hand, maybe not. Okay, excellent. We're going to come back to the sentences that you wrote to help you construct a title. And you can use the title as a tiny text. And I'll show you how to write the rest of your document, because that will also help with the connections and the flow. Oops, that's not what I wanted to do. There we go. So let's talk about, oh no, that is not. Let's talk about, sorry, I'm just going to keep it like this. Let's talk about this first title. It says, Investigating Sino-African Relations. Sino refers to China. Investment and governance regimes in Sino-Ugandan oil relations. So what do you think of this title? What do you like about the title? What do you think should change about the title? Quickly going to move to see if there's hands. But I assume you're typing your responses. Okay, so I only see the person's initial as R. You're asking how? Are you asking? So maybe R could elaborate for us on what they mean with how. Ms. van der Merwe says the focus is not clear. It's too wide. It does seem very wide. How can the focus? Oh, lovely, awesome. Dominique says they don't necessarily demonstrate the intended outcome. Yeah, so we don't see the aim. And I think it's part of our set, yes, the methods used is we're not sure. Oops, sorry, I didn't want to do that. And Ms. Becker says, why Sino-African and then Sino-Ugandan? I think they try to go from broad to specific. So they're broadly looking, it fits into, their research fits into the broader field of Sino-African relations, but they're going to focus on Sino-Ugandan oil relations. And Dominique says, investigating to what end? We can't deduce the aim. Yes. So in this title, the thing, it could be a systematic review. Yes, Ms. Ngom. Maria says, I think it could only be investment and governance regimes, yes, in Sino-Ugandan oil relations. Yeah. This is unnecessary, it's repetition. And it does imply that, yes, the that Uganda is representative of the entire continent, yes. Yes, and Tukuloko, the title is luckily not too long, so that's good. It's concise enough. Okay. And we have the repetition. Usually we try to avoid repetitions. So we have relations and relations, and we try to avoid it. So one way is to get rid of this. We would still then need an action word. I think that's what most of you, sorry. I'm a bit cold, so my fingers keep pressing the wrong spots. So the things that you mentioned about the how, it's too wide. The methods, we don't know what they hope to achieve. We can all be solved by getting a more specific action word, or by adding the method. So if they said a system, investment and governance regimes in Sino-Ugandan oil relations, a systematic review, that will tell us what they're going to do. Or if there's nothing wrong with the action word investigating, but it is very broad. So when you use an action word, use one that's very specific. Try to avoid investigating and analysis, because all research is an investigation and analysis. So the writer could have said, describing investment and governance regimes, or evaluating or assessing. Okay, so Kirchner says there's another hand up, but I can't see who either. The person whose hand is up, maybe you can just speak. That would be okay. Just unmute yourself.
It might also be a glitch on my side.
Okay. Yeah, that sometimes happens. Sometimes the hand stays up on my side, but on the student side, it's not there.
Can I also just quickly ask anybody who has their cameras on to just disable them to save on bandwidth for the other participants?
Thank you. Excellent. Yeah, I like what you said, Ngom. Insight could replace investigating. So insight into investment and governance regimes, something a bit more specific. So it's not a bad title, this one. It's not bad at all, but it can be fine-tuned a little bit, made a little bit more specific. What about, now I just shot myself in the foot. My apologies in advance for this pronunciation. So what do you think of this title? Etiology and management of Neofabrae lenticel decay, bull's eye rot of apples in the Western Cape of South Africa. What do you like about it? What do you think can be done differently? R says it's good. Yes. R, are you from Agri-Sciences? I think there's just waiting for some more people to type. So R likes the title. Yes, Mr. Ngom says also it's good. Yes. Mr. Swart asked, do you have to state the whole Western Cape of South Africa? What do the rest of you think? Is it necessary to say the Western Cape of South Africa? Or should we just have the Western Cape or just South Africa? Those of you from Agri-Sciences, what do you think? Oh, interesting. Tebogo says etiology and management, or management could cover etiology as well. Okay, so it might be that they don't need to put, yeah, both of them there. Okay, so our fields, we don't need Western Cape, but I have to say I agree with Ms. van der Merwe. She says if you want to publish in an international journal, it would probably be good to have this description. I agree. And because the Western Cape has a very specific climate, the writer won't be able to make draw conclusions about how to manage bullseye rot for all apples everywhere. It might be applicable everywhere, but I mean, within the scope of the research, they can't look at everywhere. So this is where they focus. So at least we know we can do that there. Ms. Nalubega asked about two-part titles. I'm going to talk about it now. Tebogo says, I think regions are important in agri-sciences, yes, because they have different weathers that could determine the apple rot, absolutely. And also it narrows it down. Even if this is not an article, this is a thesis. If someone in France is looking for information about bullseye rot in apples, they need to they would still need to know the geographical area. And let me just see the Ms. Shireni, hi, says she's in agreement. And I agree with Tebogo about the regions that are important. Yes, and Ms. Holm, or Nicole, I agree with you as well. I would assume geography needs to be specific in research, absolutely. Then Dr. Mukamba and Ms. Becker ask about the brackets. It's common practice in, I mean, this is a little bit extra, so it's common practice in agri-sciences to have the formal name and then the colloquial name for it as well. So this is standard practice in agri-sciences. And Ms. Matejo says, true that. I agree with you. Yes, and Ms. Duncan also says the Western Cape, so it needs to, it has to stay, the area. Okay. Excellent. So this is quite a good title. We had a question about two-part titles. So this one would be a two-part title, investigating Sino-African relations, investment and governance regimes in Sino-Ugandan oil relations. This one doesn't have it. It's not a must. You don't have to have two-part titles. I quite like this, the colon. I like those two dots. The reason I like them is they often take the place of a few words, which means you can make your title more concise. But then sometimes, so in this case, this first part, I agree with those of you who said it's not really necessary. Yes, so it's not really necessary to have this. Then it wouldn't have been a two-part title. I'm trying to think now of, oh, there's this lovely title from economics, business. I always use this title just because I like this title a lot. Business counterintelligence, sustainable. What I really like, there's no set rules. So we like you to use this workshop session as a toolbox from which you pick and choose whatever will work for you. So for some of you, it will help having that colon there. In some cases, though, the colon doesn't help because it seems like two unrelated statements. And then you have to substitute the colon with a couple of words. Don't just put in and, because all it shows is there's still two things and seems like two separate studies. You need to add words that show the connection. But in this case, I love this title because it has that two parts. I'm just partial to the two parts title. It starts broadly with business counterintelligence, colon, sustainable practice or passing fad. And what I like about this title is you'll notice it doesn't really have an action word, but the fact that they, the phrasing, you're adding the question mark, because we also usually don't have questions as headings or titles, but you can. In this case, it helps because it shows us that the writer is going to debate whether business counterintelligence is sustainable or not. So, and the title goes from broad to specific. It's concise. I just like that title. But this is also a good title. It gives us all the necessary details. It tells us what they're focusing on. It gives us the geographical area. So that's also, and it doesn't need, it's concise enough. It doesn't need a colon. It works fine as it is. Does that make sense? Going to peek if there's a hand. No. Okay. So what I'd like you to do now, so basically what we're looking for in titles is, and I can see you anticipating my next question. What we're looking for in titles is the topic. So you want to make sure that your most important keywords sound. Think of your readers as people like you. They're looking for information, so they go to a database or a search engine, they type in a bunch of keywords, and out comes a bunch of texts. And based on the based on the algorithm that determines which documents it shows you and the order in which it puts it, is based on the keywords in your title, obviously also the keywords that you have listed as keywords. That tells them if this text is going to be relevant for the reader. And then the reader, based on your title, decides whether this text is relevant for them or not. So you want to make sure that your most important keywords sound in your title. And the action. I didn't say verb because it's not always a verb. It's not always comparison or development or I've run out of verbs. It's only Tuesday, but it can be an action word. But it can also be your method that you include in the title. It could be it's a systematic review or randomized trials or longitudinal study or case study that you use as the action to show exactly what it is that you're going to do, because different texts can all have the same topic. So they have the same keywords, but the difference will be in how do they approach all of this. Is one maybe an evaluation, another one is a description, another one is identifying something. So the action is important as well. So I'm going to show you how you can use your title to construct, I'm going to copy this, to construct a title if you don't have a title yet. So first what you do is you identify your most important keywords. So Teboho, what are your most important keywords here?
I think it's health-seeking behavior.
Mm-hmm.
And it's reducing cases.
Is it reducing cases?
Ensuring that men come to health services.
Okay, yes, ensure that men come to health services. When you say devise a means, what do you have planned?
I think mostly I seek to understand why men don't come to services, okay, so that I can counter those behaviors.
Okay. Any other keywords that are important? Okay, I'm going to. Yeah, sorry.
I'll need to be assisted. I can't think of any right now.
Okay. Tokologo asks, isn't men also important? That's what I was hoping. Yes.
Oh, thank you.
Important.
Thank you,
Yes.
Tokologo. Yes.
Men
Yes.
are important.
Yes, in this topic. Yes.
Excellent. Thank you, Tokologo. So then so you first identify your most important keywords. Which one would you say is the most important keyword?
Well, a phrase, health-seeking behavior.
Yes. Behavior. The reason I ask that is everything that you write, whether it's a sentence or a paragraph or a title, has a beginning, middle, and end. And whatever you want to emphasize, you can place that in the beginning of the title or of the sentence of the paragraph, because then it draws your reader's attention, it creates a focus. So that's why I asked which one is the most important. Which is the second, what would you put after health-seeking behavior?
Men.
Men, yes, men are important. And then is there a way to say shorter, ensure that they come for health services or HIV services?
Yeah, I think that would be the next one.
Okay, so we have ensure they come for health HIV services. So I first added the little dots because now we're going to link the different components. How can we link health-seeking behavior and men? How can we fill up those dots? I'm not sure if you're talking to Boho, but we can't hear you, so I'm not sure if you're muted, perhaps.
I'm still thinking.
You're still thinking.
I wasn't speaking. Yes.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Okay. Oh, Mashareni said what we're now going to do, you can also, the rest of you can also give suggestions to Dibogo. So I first just jotted down the most important keywords or key phrases, and I put them, we started with the most important one. Now we need to fill in those little dots to connect the different keywords with or key phrases with each other. So any suggestions? Yes.
Notes cannot be at the start, at the beginning of the sentence, like maybe enhance health-seeking male health-seeking behaviors.
I like that. Enhancing men's health-seeking behavior. Yes. So we can put men first. Health-seeking behavior is still
keyword. Yes.
Yes, the main keyword. It's still early enough. And then how can we add this? Do we have to add it? Enhancing men's health-seeking behavior? Because the enhancing already has that, but we don't have health HIV services yet. Oh, nice. Bronwyn says, let's see. Bronwyn says, now we can have that colon. I love the colon. Ensuring
obtain services.
Yes, very nice. Men obtain or access health HIV services. Very nice. And then we can take out one of the men. I think then we can say enhancing health-seeking behavior, ensuring men access health HIV services. Very nice. Oops. Yeah, we have to include HIV and we have it there now. And there you have the first draft of a title, Tebogo. What do you think about the title? That helped you come up?
I love it. I think it will also, I think writing the title properly will make it easy for me to continue to write my research. Yeah, I love it. Thank you.
Excellent. Wonderful. And as I said before, it's a working title. So this is going to be changing and changing and changing until you submit. But what's nice about having a draft of your title from the beginning is it helps you to search for literature. So now you can look for literature on health-seeking behavior. You can look at literature on access to HIV services. You can look specifically narrowing it down to men's access to health services, or looking at what keeps them from accessing HIV services. Yeah, so it helps you to find literature, write your literature review, structure your proposal, etc. So what I'd like you all to do now is I'm going to keep Tebogo's example up. I want you to use, I'm going to give you 3 minutes. So quick. I'm going to keep this up and I'm going to ask you to do to the sentence that you wrote what we now did with this, with Tebogo's sentence, and see if you can come up with a, what do you call it? A title. Sorry, I'm going to keep quiet now and I'm going to give you 3 minutes to quickly do that. Okay, so I see lots coming in. We have time to look at one. So this time I'm going to take the last one. Let's see, Miss van der Merwe. I know that I know your name and I can't remember. I'm so sorry.
It's fine, Celine. Fine.
What's your name again? It's
Charlene.
Charlene. I'm so sorry because I recognize your name and surname. Well, and everything. There we go. So so this was the last one that I saw before the others come in. I'm just quickly going to copy it if I can manage it. Ugh. My fingers are not cooperating today. Let's try that. So the title is, there we go. Charlene's title is Changing the Assessment Culture, Developing a Framework to Enhance Assessment for Learning Practices. Very nice. What do you think of your title, Charlene?
I must say, Celine, this exercise helped a little bit to identify where the key words are. So I'm not 100% sure if it's what should be there, and I also think the word enhancing can mean various things. So maybe I should still look for another word instead of enhancing, because what does that mean?
Okay, especially in the education context.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, words also have different meanings in different fields. So yes. Any feedback for Charlene? Do you like her title as it is? Should it change? I wish we could look at everyone's titles. Oh, Charmaine, I'm so sorry. Yes. In addition to having useless fingers today, my ears are always useless. Sorry, Charmaine.
No problem.
Feedback for Charmaine. Do you like her title? So Mrs. Brown says developing a framework to guide. Okay, so her suggestion is to guide. That's a nice word, yes. Or improve, or suggests we to improve assessment for learning practices. Yes. Any other, what do you think, Charmaine? Do you like those suggestions to guide assessment for learning practices, to improve?
Yeah, I think it's more workable.
And it's more specific. It's not just enhancing, and people will ask how, but maybe to provide guidance or to improve, or both, to guide and improve. Yes. Any other feedback? Charmaine, if I remember correctly, you already have a title, or had a title for your proposal. Is this very different from what you have currently, or pretty much the same?
So no, I haven't registered the title yet. So I'm still working on it.
Okay, no worries. Oh, and then Bronwyn has a suggestion. Instead of maybe changing the assessment culture, we can have improving assessment culture, and then developing a framework to guide assessment for learning practices. Yes. Yeah, so then it implies it's not just changing to change it, it's to improve it. Yeah, very good. Thank you so much for that feedback. I'm going to delete this slide, that empty slide. I just very quickly, we have 10 minutes left, 11 minutes left. So I quickly want to show you how you can use a hypothesis or a proposition as a nutshell.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry, yes, I see, yes.
Just a quick question on Charmaine's article.
Yes.
That wouldn't a semicolon on this one make the title a bit difficult to understand, because I'm not sure if now it means improving the assessment culture by developing a framework.
We can definitely have that.
Well, that's if it's being done, you know, in that particular way. So sometimes I've seen some titles using a semicolon, but sometimes it becomes difficult whether you are already suggesting that's going to be your methodology of solving the problem. Or...
Okay. So yes, it's then we can have the colon, or if Charmaine feels she wants the by, then that as well. Excellent. So Charmaine says thanks to everyone. Yes. So if there's a chance, readers might not immediately make the connection, you can take out the colon. Thank you, Similane. There was something else. Oh, to also add, does practices add any value to the topic? So I think Tabo was asking, should it be there or not? What do you think, Charmaine? Should we have just to improve assessment for learning or to guide assessment for learning practices?
Well, I think I added the word practices because it will refer to I don't know, what we do in assessments, how we set up assessments, how we think about assessments. So
okay. So yeah, I'm going to put it in brackets so you can then that's what I wanted to say. Remember that even though you get feedback from various places, peers, friends, supervisors, you're still the owner of your work. So you can decide which of those feedback is useful and do you want to implement, and which of them that you don't. It still stays your. No worries, Nicole. Enjoy your class. It's okay. What did I want to say? Yeah, it's still your work, so you can decide which of the suggestions you implement and which not. But I think the feedback we got was really good. So Charmaine, I think you have a lot of different things that you can look at while adjusting your title. But thank you so much for everyone's feedback. Now, just quickly getting back to using hypotheses as nutshells. Not all research will have a hypothesis. It's only very specific types of research where we have there's this idea in the research field that they think there's this connection between two or more things, but it hasn't been tested yet. And then you can do research that is hypothesis driven, where you're actually going to test. If I do this, then that will happen. And the hypothesis phrasing is therefore as a suggested preliminary answer to a problem or to a question. So the phrasing is important because you want to phrase it as tentative, but it still has to be very specific. Now, even if you don't have a hypothesis, so now we're getting to the what part of those three questions I had in the beginning, the what, why, the how parts, the what, why, and how. Sometimes you can start to feel overwhelmed and it seems like a big topic and you're not sure where to start, you're not sure where this is going, you're not sure what route to take. Writing a hypothesis for yourself could help guide your research. It gives direction to the research design. So if you think of your proposal as a roadmap, where you're telling your reader exactly how you're going to travel from Stellenbosch to Cape Town. So tell your reader you're going to drive down Bird Street. The Bird Street is going to change into the R whatever. I'm really bad with direction. You're going to drive so many kilometers before you take the slipway to the left that says Cape Town, etc. So the proposal gives the details of that route that you're going to follow. The hypothesis gives us the broad direction. So it's like telling someone I'm going to travel from Stellenbosch to Cape Town via the N1. And what's very nice about having that concise way of putting the map or the route is that you can see the beginning and the end. You're starting in Stellenbosch, you're ending in Cape Town, but you also see the broad direction, the route that you're going to take. So from that, you can develop your design and methodology. So if I'm going to travel from, you broadly say I'm going to go from Stellenbosch to Cape Town via the N1, and then you can use, okay, now I know that I'm going in that direction. I know how to give the details of data collection, the analysis, the interpretation, etc. Sorry, I swallowed wrong. I'm so sorry. So it seems, sadly, we're not going to have time for you to write a hypothesis for your in the session itself, but you can write a hypothesis about your research, thinking about what is the beginning point, what is the end point, and how you're going to get there. So I'll give you an example of a hypothesis. So this one is problematic because, well, it's small. Let me just quickly make stuff a little bit bigger. So this first example, overfishing affects the stocks of cod, is problematic because it's vague. We don't know what type of overfishing. Our assumption, and never let your readers make assumptions. So the reader's assumption is here that it negatively affects the stocks of cod, but that's actually not explicitly said. We're assuming that the writer means the stocks of the cod is being overfished, but it might not have been. So something more specific and but still tentative is the if-then formulation. If overfishing is causing, and it's more specific, a decline in the numbers of cod, reducing the amount of trawlers, now we also know what type of fishing, will increase cod stocks. So we can broadly see what the writer is going to do. They're going to go to a specific area. They're going to count the numbers of cod. They're going to count the number of trawlers. They're going to remove a certain amount of the trawlers. And after a period of time, they're going to recount the numbers of cod to see if they're still reducing or not. So it gives us a broad overview of their research methods that they're going to do in a nutshell. So you can try this with your own research as well. Just a heads up, writing is, or language and writing is powerful, but it's not magic. So you can't just use the if-then formulation and magically there will be a link. If I play the lottery, then I will get rich. That's sadly not how writing works. So you have to, for yourself, there has to be a conceptual link first, and then you connect the things, the various components to each other. So in the last 2 minutes that we have left, I just quickly want to point out where you can get more support for your writing. At the Writing Lab, we have one-to-one consultations. So I know many of you probably already know about it, but the consultations are free for all Stellenbosch University staff and students. You can make use of it as often as you like. At the moment, we're still just online, so you can contact Anna-Marie to schedule a consultation. We do it on MS Teams, but we can also use Skype. Any questions about the workshops, about this session, you're welcome to email me. And then Alison is from the postgraduate office, and she has a WhatsApp group called Shut Up and Write. And the group does exactly what it says it does. Every day, we get together on WhatsApp and we literally shut up and write. It's a lovely supportive group, and it helps keep the momentum going in writing. Because sometimes you don't feel like writing, and then when there's prompts and encouragement coming through on WhatsApp, you go, I can probably write. So if you would like to join the Shut Up and Write group or get more information about that group, just email Alison and she'll add you to the WhatsApp group. And that's some do's and don'ts for writing a proposal. Any questions or comments? Okay, so I see there is a question about hypotheses. So I'll just quickly deal with that question. Maria asks, in social sciences, isn't it maybe better to keep the hypothesis? Yes, that's why I said you write the hypothesis for yourself. You do not add it, because only some research is hypothesis driven. But you can use it as a nutshell just to regain focus in your text and to get an idea of where to start with your methods. And yeah, so you keep the hypothesis for yourself if your research is not hypothesis driven. And oftentimes in the social sciences, we won't necessarily have a hypothesis. We call them propositions because they're not measurable or they're not quantifiable. So in social sciences, we can have a proposition like if community members' level of education increases, there will be a decrease in crime. But that's not something we can count. But it is something we can test a little bit. But it's not as measurable as it would be in the sciences. And when is the video going to be uploaded? I don't know that. Also with the connection for yesterday. So I'm pretty sure, Kirchner, so I'm going to say thank you for this opportunity. It was lovely seeing some familiar people here as well and meeting new people. And I wish you well with your writing. Excellent. Have a lovely afternoon.
Yes, thank you very much, Selena, from the library side for hosting this session. I think just based on the interaction, I think this was very useful to a lot of guests. Regarding the recording, yes, we are going to upload all the Research Week sessions onto our YouTube page. Or our YouTube channel, and this will be communicated to all participants once it has been done. There is some processing involved. For instance, somebody stopped the recording at some point, and so I'm going to have to combine the recording. So there is going to be a bit of a delay in getting the recordings up there, but they will be available by, at the latest, the end of the week. Yes, and this includes Prof. Volmink's lecture from yesterday, and all the other sessions will also be available. As for slides and additional notes that the presenters make available, these will be sent out to you via email list as well.